Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. And this summer, we're sharing information that we think will help families and kids to get regrounded, reconnected, and keep learning over the summer. And it's been quite a year. It's been a lot of disruption. Every family's had a different set of challenges, but I think we've all been affected by it. And one of the things we've noticed in the discussion group on Facebook, and as I talk with parents, is that parents are really concerned about the mental health and the social emotional well-being of their children. And so I invited back one of our beloved guest authors, Deb Haddock. And hello, Deb. It's good to see you.
Hi there. It's good to see you too.
So Deb is a spiritual director and wellness coach, and she's part of a team called Rhea Ministry. And here, I'll pop there. It's rheaministry.org. And I first met Deb. We were sharing, both members of the Impact Guild, which is a wonderful co-working space. Yes. And but we've both been working from home, so I haven't seen Deb as often. But I'm really happy for this opportunity to reconnect. And she wrote a beautiful guest post that's on the SA Charter Moms blog, so sachartermoms.com. And I asked Deb what she thought, what she was hearing from her clients and in the community. And she said that she felt like resilience was really the topic and the lesson that we all need to invest in now. That's what's timely. She wrote for us before about mindfulness and peaceful parenting, and it's a really beautiful post. I encourage you. There's a link to her new post in the description of this video, and that post has a link to her earlier post about mindfulness. I really strongly recommend both posts. I've learned so much from both of them. So Deb's here for a conversation to kind of bring that post to life. So I encourage you to read the post as well. So Deb, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad to be here.
So well, I wanted to ask you, how would you define resilience in this context?
Okay, so whenever people talk about psychological resilience, it's really referring to how an individual responds to a really difficult event. So, and difficult is really kind of depending on the person and their interpretation of things. So for a child, maybe studying really hard and then flunking a test, that's huge. Although to an adult, it might be, well, that's just a small thing, and but to the child, it's huge. But in the context today with a pandemic that's affecting the whole country, then it's about not only the child, but it's about every one of us figuring out individually how we're going to respond, and then as family units, societal units, that sort of thing. But resilience is, many people will say it's about bouncing back to the way that you were before the external event. But now people are talking about it more in terms of, some people say bouncing forward, some people say advancing, but they're focusing on getting to the other side, because life never returns to what it was. We have to adapt and then move forward.
Yeah. Well, like in the post, you give a lot of examples of the kinds of challenges that folks have faced in the past year, and it's different for every family. But like like in my family, like my husband lost his job, and so we've needed to figure out what's next. And both of my kids experienced distance learning in different ways. It did affect both of them, and I didn't notice the effects right away. It kind of like I thought we were doing okay, and then I realized actually we're not okay. Like I need to get more involved in trying to problem solve and really listen to them and get them involved in the problem solving. That so like in a lot of ways, like we're a pretty tech savvy family. My husband and I could both work from home, but it threw us, and like you said, like the world's never going to go back to the way it was before the pandemic. My kids are almost 2 years older, right? And the job my husband did before doesn't exist anymore. So and I can't unlearn the lessons that I've learned in the past year and a half. So we're all different people than we were when the pandemic started.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that if we support each other and really tell each other the truth about what we're thinking and feeling, then we'll get through it and we'll move on and we'll be stronger.
Yeah. Well, what have you noticed, like as a coach, and as you talk to your clients, like what are some of the ways that children are reacting to maybe the changes or the trauma that they might have experienced in the past year?
Well, it's interesting because initially, I don't know that a lot of children were really grasping what was going on. I mean, it's a great chance to get to go home and not have to go to school, right? And then you're learning these new things. Oh, we get to go online for class. I'm kind of learning how to do it. But that excitement, I think, only lasted for a while. The biggest thing with children is being able to socialize with other children. And so being so isolated is a huge thing. So if you have brothers and sisters, that can help a little bit. But what I hear from parents is that, okay, we've got the family that needs to do the typical things that our family does, but now add that we're learning online. And if mom and dad both have jobs, how on earth are we supposed to balance that and still be here so that our kids can learn? And I think there's been a lot of burnout of just trying to figure out, how do we do this? How long is this going to last? That sort of thing. But for children, it's really about socializing is the biggest thing I hear. And the second is sometimes children really have a hard time dealing with the fact that they're not right there with their teacher and getting the kind of support they need, especially children with any kind of learning issues. You can't expect those children to be able to function in the same way.
Yeah, yeah. That was like there were things where like it crept up on us, like doing Minecraft or doing online things. Like it was some social interaction, but it's not the same. There's always lag and there's no body language, and it's just kind of it's limited what you can do. And I noticed that so like when my daughter's class shifted to being concurrent learning, right, where some kids were on campus and she was still at home, that it changed because the teachers were more focused on delivering what the kids on campus needed. And so the kids who were still working from home, they couldn't ask questions. Everything took twice as long. And she experienced burnout until, they were able to make space for her back on campus, and our family got to a comfort level. But, it was, like for kids, like not having that classroom interaction with the teacher it does affect learning. And that's why, like, I mean, some families commit to distance learning for the long haul, but it's hard to do that and for a parent to work, because often it means you're sitting alongside your student, right? And then sometimes parents form like learning pods or micro schools. Anyway, that's a whole nother, I'm getting into Turner Moms mode, but it's a really interesting topic to me. Like, how do you address this? But, I think everyone's just kind of relieved that the world feels safer and kids are able to get back together, and they can see their friends more. They can, most students can go back on campus, and but we can't it's not just going to go back the way it was, like you said, right? It's right. Falling, it's sort of not bouncing back, it's bouncing forward. So
yes, exactly. But I've even had college students tell me that they're having a tough time. Just the feeling of I can't interact with anybody, and it just doesn't feel genuine to be doing the courses and trying to do the discussion online. So I think it's hitting all levels, really.
Yeah. So in the post, one of the things that really struck me is you talk about the importance of self-regulation, and you with nuance, because it's different at different ages, right? So, but I was wondering if you could talk about like the importance of self-regulation, and then maybe kind of talk about like how it works at different ages, how adults can model it for kids, how kids sometimes model it for the adults.
Right, exactly. That's true. Oh man, yeah, self-regulation. Many, and I hope it's most of us learn it at home. Parents teach us when it's appropriate to speak out, not speak out. Obviously, when children throw tantrums, we don't like that, but you can just let the child throw the tantrum, and then when they're calm, talk about a better way of handling things. So emotional regulation is really tied to emotional intelligence. In other words, if you get mad, think about as adults. If we're in a staff meeting and we get mad and start yelling at everyone, That's not a good thing. That's not regulating. You might feel angry, but you have to be able to either realize it's not the time to express it, or realize there are healthy ways of expressing it. And so self-regulation is about not just being impulsive and reacting, but it's about thinking through what's best for the group as well as for yourself. So when it comes to children, parents really have to model that. And there's a lot of stress associated with the pandemic and what's been going on. So nobody's going to be perfect. And if a parent gets to the point where it's just like, I can't take this anymore, and they blow up or something, that's okay. But then you can go back to your children and say, you know what? I'm sorry I blew up like that. I think I could have handled that differently. And then you can have a little discussion, and you're modeling what needs to happen. And, you know, I used to work in child development centers. And so, of course, that's the age where children hit each other and throw tantrums and all these things. And we teach such simple things like use your words, or we don't touch other children, very simple things, but that's teaching emotional regulation.
Yeah, it is. I know that like for myself, I've been fairly good about not blowing up. I won't say it didn't happen, but what I would try to do is sometimes I would like go to my husband and be like, "Tag, you're it." Like like be like, I need to recuse myself from this, like using the lawyer phrase, but like, you know, it's like I need to calm myself down. I need some space. Like I'm an introvert, and so sometimes I need to be alone to be able to calm myself. At least I know that about myself. You know, and I'll go and walk, just pace around the grass in my backyard, or I'll go fold laundry. There's always laundry to fold, right? Like, that's actually self-soothing. Good thing, right? You know, but like, so having that, but like, so like, in the post you talk about like the things that adults can do. It's like, I guess like step one is realizing that like what your state is, and that it's changing, and then taking affirmative steps to change that, right? Like, so, you know, the emotional intelligence is recognizing, like, okay, I'm not calm, like I'm not, and I'm liable to have, you know, say something I might regret, hurt someone's feelings,
Right.
you know, break a confidence, you know, do a physical action, like, you know, break something. I don't know, but it's that recognizing that yourself, be like, okay, I need to like stop, and then there's the things you can do to like, you know, change how you feel, right? So like you mentioned in the post, you talk about radical acceptance, or just kind of ongoing self-care, and even like in the moment, like breathing or calming, or things like that.
Exactly. So I think there's a couple of things you can do with children when they're having problems. One is the breathing. So you know, you sit down and talk to the child about what you're going to do so you can breathe together. And maybe even just have your arm around the child or hold the child's hand, something like that. So there's that connection. And then talk about how you take a deep breath from your tummy. And then let's let it all out, because there are a lot of ways. Or I have some kids notice how their puppies breathe. And I say that we're going to imitate that. We're going to pretend we're puppies, you know, so that works. But then on the other side, you can actually help them to get the feelings out through some sort of physical activity. So it might be doing kids yoga, or going out and just playing a little bit of basketball or something like that, just to get all the energy out. Or something like sitting down, you know, finger painting is a really good way to get feelings out. Doing that, or drawing a picture about it, writing a story. So I think it's very important to teach kids how to tell the story about what's happening, and to help them learn how to name the feelings. And then, okay, now what can we do about it?
Yeah. Another thing you mentioned in the post is that, and this was hard during the pandemic, but like, trying to hold on to structure and trying to find consistency. You know, but it's really hard because like you try to make plans, and then the world changes again, and
Exactly.
you know, and we're home, and so we're not, maybe the sort of external structures aren't impinging on our day the way they were before. So it really takes like a conscious effort to create the structure and stay with it and be consistent.
It does. Like families making sure that at least one meal is with everyone during the day. I've had some families that I've talked to about having family meetings and help them create the structure for a family meeting so that every week you can talk to each other about what the highs and lows have been and are there any problems we need to tackle with all the scheduling. And yeah, because I think it's very hard. I mean, I don't have children living in my house, but it's hard because we're both working from home and we have dogs that, bark like maniacs. And so we have to agree when something important is going on. How do we keep it quiet, for example? And it takes effort to do that.
It does. And it takes like, yeah, I think marriage advice I heard a long time ago was like, if in marriage, if it tries to be 50-50, that won't work. It's like each person has to give 100%. And
Exactly.
yes, I know that adds up to more than 100%, but if you're trying to keep score of like, well, I gave 50%, did they give 50%? It's like, no, because whatever their perception of what you're giving might not add up to 50%, right?
Exactly.
So everyone needs to go all in, and just have that sense of giving, that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I think that's true for families. And yeah, like we're big on the family dinner thing, and the devices get put away. But I'm thinking the family meeting thing, like that, we might be time for that. Cause like, like my kids are at that, they're tweens, or my son is 13 and like he's 13, and they have opinions, and they think about the future in a different way than young children do. And I want them to have a voice. I want them to have agency in how the family is run.
Exactly. And it's a life skill. I mean, if you learn how to sit in a meeting and present your opinions and talk about solutions and that sort of thing, that goes with you. I was so fortunate growing up because at the dinner table, we talked about current events. And then we'd talk about, those very things, opinions. And my father taught me how to support my opinions, whether he agreed with me or not. He taught me about the importance of logic and the way you talk to people and that sort of thing. And then I remember having family meetings too, where we just sit down, and at one point we were going to move. And
that's exactly what I remember. Yeah, I remember talking about like when our family moved overseas. We lived in Germany for 2 years, and it was a big decision. And my sister and I were about the age that my kids are now, and and we all kind of got to talk it through.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's it, talk about it. We ended up not moving because all of us were at an age where we wanted to graduate from where, and my parents were just very understanding of that once we talked it through. So, those types of things. I've noticed with a few people too, that it's been really helpful with everybody being at home to create that consistency of, we're a family, so we need to help each other out, and with the chores and all those kinds of things. And this creates a unique opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, it does. I think that like if there's a silver lining from this, it's that my kids have learned some more life skill stuff that I might not have taken the time to show them. And now it's like, okay, I'm desperate. I need help. Like,
yeah, exactly.
even if the laundry turns pink, I don't care. I need help.
Right. I was thinking about it today, even how my grandmother raised 9 children during the Depression. Like, talk about resilience. So the pandemic was nothing like the Depression. It was tough. It's still tough in some ways, but years and years from now, something else will probably happen. It's just life, really.
Yeah. It's just that this is possibly the most disruptive thing to happen in this generation.
That's it. Yes, exactly.
But disruptions have happened before, and they will happen again.
Yeah.
And it needs to be part of our toolkit, like how to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about like the family meeting idea, and then I think in the post you talk about it in terms of family conversations, and like I think that's a good setting to bring up questions about like as the world starts to reopen, right? Like more family members get vaccinated, and there's more stuff to go to. Like like I said, like summer camps are opening up again, and like movie theaters are opening, and so like like how can these like family discussions, whether it's at a meal or a family meeting, like how does that facilitate like getting back out in the world? And maybe, different family members might have different anxieties about that.
Exactly. And I think that whether it's a family meeting or a dinner topic, if you just bring up the question, whatever it might be, it could be as simple as things are opening up, you'll be going back to school in the fall, and a lot of things will change. What are you thinking and feeling about that? And give everybody a chance to say, no right or wrong answer, just say how you're feeling. And then you can ask the question, do you feel like you need any help from any of us to kind of work through this? Maybe yes, maybe no. But another thing you can do, especially, well, even with pretty young children, is take turns asking the question you want to ask at dinner, so that, for an entire week, you've got a rotation of questions, and you're going to find out a lot about the child that asks a certain question. You're going to know what's on their mind.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's an ongoing thing. I think it works best when it becomes a habit, and then everyone is like, oh, it's dinner time. Like, it's like I can't just eat my food and run. It's like,
that's it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as like, yeah, like as kids go from being little kids to being teenagers, like there's more sort of, seems like there's more like internal weather of their mood, and there might be a day when they just don't talk much. But if as an adult, like you just try to be available, then hopefully at some point they will be ready to talk, and then you can capture that moment and get the words to flow.
Exactly. And you can always offer different ways. Like, I would validate if a child doesn't want to talk, like, nobody's forcing you to talk, but you can come to one of us at another time and we can talk one-on-one, or you can send me a little note, or, a lot of families, you text. And if a child doesn't feel comfortable talking, I'd be fine with getting a text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, the other day I was talking to Mandy Majors of Next Talk. So her specialty is digital parenting and having open communication so that kids are safe as they interact with the online world. And she said she loves being in the car because then nobody has to make eye contact.
That's it.
You have a captive audience, and then especially if they're talking about something embarrassing.
Right, exactly.
That is a good strategy. Yeah. Wow. I'm really grateful for this post, and like, cause it has, really good, like, you show so much understanding, I think, of what people are experiencing. And I think if people have been kind of rushing through the day to day, like trying to take care of all these like short-term items, and then like, I think reading the post, it helped me kind of slow down and reflect on, like, yeah, I'm not the only one experiencing this, like going through, unusual times, and, and acknowledge that, and then also, think about like, okay, the world's reopening and we're adding stuff back into our lives, and we need to make sure that everyone's comfortable with how things are working. And it's just a lot to deal with, but you give us the post gives us tools about how to have those conversations and how adults can try to model those behaviors for the younger family members.
Exactly. And I'm so excited that the world is reopening, but that doesn't mean everybody is. And I think, with maybe younger children, if they've been watching the news, I hope they haven't been, but or they just know because of the way everybody's acting and the fact that schedules are different, they may still think they're going to get sick or something terrible is going to happen. And so we do have to validate that, even if I think the older kids might be a little less that way, because they're so friend oriented when they're in their teens. But we've got to take the temperature of the room, and not everybody will agree.
Right. And like some of my kids' friends may have allergies or health issues, or a particular reason why, like a history of asthma, or some reason why they're especially concerned about they may not be ready to go out in the world at the same pace that my kids or our family is. And I try to model for my kids showing understanding, and not prying, not pushing anybody to do anything that they're not comfortable with yet.
Right, exactly. And I think as a community, if we can focus on helping each other, because, things got politicized and then there are opinions about should I wear a mask or should I not, and a lot of judgment. And there's really no need for the judgment. I think if we just say, well, I've chosen to do this and this is why, and sure, tell me what's going on. I'll support you. And it's much easier that way.
Yeah, and this goes back to things that you talked about earlier about the importance of emotional intelligence. That it's interwoven with self-regulation, and that we can control how we react to things. We can control the words we say to people, how we treat people, and that it affects our own state, it affects our family, it affects our community. And this provides an opportunity to grow and to help our kids at home learn that kind of self-regulation, whether it's, how to deal with disappointment, which something may seem like a big deal in their lives.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It's all so, I mean, we're interconnected. I really believe that. And whether it's where we're talking about the family, the neighborhood, the school, whatever it might be, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And starting at home with the family is really the key.
Yeah. Well, okay. I always like to close out like letting people know like how to get in touch with you. But I was wondering before I do that, do you want to offer kind of any closing thoughts or any just something you want parents or listeners to hold on to as they to be aware of how to build resilience in themselves and in their children?
If as an adult you don't know a lot about resilience and feel like you're lacking a little bit, then I would encourage you to do some reading on the topic. I mean, if you just Google the word resilience, you're going to find all sorts of tools. You can also talk to someone like myself or a pastor or a close friend, someone that you trust. And then you're better able to be there for your child. We always have to take care of ourselves first. The other thing is that even though things have felt really terrible for over a year now, we're getting through it. And I think we need to just hang on to the fact that we may not feel we're resilient, but if you just keep putting one step in front of the other, I think you're going to be surprised when you get to the other side.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. One step in front of the other.
Yeah.
We can, and I guess one thing, like, as you encourage people to, read, find resources, ask friends for help, ask experts for help. I think it's important to remember, like, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's never too late to grow in terms of emotional intelligence and resilience and self-regulation.
Exactly. And that's very, very important. I had somebody tell me, now that I'm older, and she's much older than me, and said, I feel like I'm just more resilient. It's like I don't get pushed down by every little thing that comes along. And I think there is some truth to that. But if you haven't taken the time to think about it and make resilience something that you're aware of, it doesn't just automatically happen. And so if someone came to me and they were 70, 75 and said, I'm really having a tough time because of what's going on in the world or in my life, I would be thrilled with that. Or if I've worked with children as young as 3. And I just love that throughout the lifespan, we continue to learn.
Yeah. And I'm seeing in schools more that where the schools are consciously encouraging this in the classrooms, because it helps kids get into a state where they can learn the subject matter, learn the academics, but get themselves in the right frame of mind first. And if they're bringing problems with them from the outside world with them to school, they're not ready to learn, and so they need to be fed and calm and loved and feel safe, and then they're able to learn in the best way.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so this is where I'm gonna pop the links up again. So Deb is and her team. They're called Rhea Ministry, and you can find them on the web at rheaministry.org. That's REAH ministry.org. And Deb said I can share her email. So it's Deborah Haddock at gmail.com. And if you can't grab it off the screen quick enough, don't worry, it's in the blog post. So she says that's the email she checks the most often. So
Absolutely.
I know how that goes. Yeah.
Right.
So Deb, thank you so much for the guest post.
People, by the way, too, if they just want resources or something, just email me. I'm happy to give you resources.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and there's links in the blog post for further reading. The blog post itself is rich with information, but it's got links to the sources where Deb found a lot of these great ideas. So
okay,
yeah.
wonderful.
So thank you for the guest post. Thank you for taking the time to have another conversation, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
All right, thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Okay, take care, Deb.
All right.